Well, Sabbath greetings to everyone. I hope you have had a wonderful, wonderful week. Let me shift this around here just a little bit. That's a little bit more comfortable here. Hope you've had a great week. Yes, I know I'm getting a little bit more woolly here, but I'm going to continue to let it grow for now. So I hope you don't mind. It provides a little bit of warmth in the winter, and it's a lot easier to take care of, than shaving every day. But I hope you've had a great week. It's been a good week here. Boy, I'll be honest with you, I have just been pretty tired. I can't really explain it. It's hard to explain it exactly, but when wintertime comes around, I have to really focus very, very hard on staying out of hibernation. So I'm working on that. I appreciate your prayers, but the winter months, and even though it's been unseasonably warm, still my body tends to have probably a little different reaction to it than some. But anyway, we won't belabor that. Doing just fine here from Sussex, of course. We're all of us together are battling this time of year and getting, looking forward to having it over with. Really, really looking forward to it. Having this pagan season behind us. Of course, we are very grateful to know the truth about it. That's to be certain. But we all, I'm sure, look forward to it being over. Last month, it's amazing. We've already turned the corner into December of the year, and November we spent a lot of time in the Proverbs, and we're going to go back there and maybe do that same thing here in December and just kind of get through the Proverbs in that way. We're back to the beginning here. I know in early November we spent a little bit of time in Proverbs 4 talking about wisdom, and wisdom is the principal thing. That's Proverbs 4 and verse 7. But if you look at Proverbs 2, we all know Proverbs 2 is all about wisdom. And, there's actually a situation here in the early Proverbs where wisdom is personified. That, wisdom is, of course, as chapter 4 says, the principal thing. Being able to live life skillfully. And so, of course, Solomon is the one responsible for most of the Proverbs here. At least we believe Solomon is likely the author of most of Proverbs, and that was the one thing that Solomon asked for, was wisdom. And if you think that through and think about how, he had to have some wisdom to begin with, to have enough wisdom to ask for more wisdom, to actually be able to say that, if he could have asked for anything at all, he asked for wisdom. Because wisdom is what he knew he would need to be the right kind of ruler, a ruler that would be pleasing and a ruler that would be able to benefit the people in his care. And so wisdom is incredibly, incredibly important for all of us to ask for and to understand and to go after in this life. The very limited time we have in this life, we need to be pursuing and praying for and seeking wisdom. In chapter 2 here of Proverbs, it says, "My son, if you receive my words and treasure my commands within you, so that you incline your ear to wisdom." Incline your ear to wisdom and apply your heart to understanding. Yes, if you cry out for discernment, for discernment, that is being able to use wisdom in making decisions. Discerning good and evil, discerning which path to take, what adjustments need to be made throughout this life to do things God's way. If you cry out for discernment and lift up your voice for understanding, if you seek her as silver and search for her as for hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of the Lord. So wisdom is tied to the fear of God, and the right kind of fear of God, which we know is incredibly important. If you will do that and you find, then if you understand, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. Verse 6, "For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth knowledge and understanding." From his mouth. That's where knowledge and understanding comes from. And of course, this is his word. This is This is words directly God breathed from His mouth come knowledge. That's why it's so important to study this book and to study it every day. And you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God, for the Lord gives wisdom. From His mouth come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He's a shield to those who walk uprightly. And then in verse 8 he says, He guards the paths of justice and preserves the way of His saints. Think about that, just in terms of the saints, the called out ones, the first fruits, that He preserves the way of His saints. The way of life has been preserved for the saints. And that is so true when you think about it. Think about how we are here to be, those instruments that God is using to preserve His way, to preserve the truth, to preserve a way of life that is going to be eventually extant all over the earth. Whether this world believes it or understands it, of course they're not going to believe or understand in this life, but it's because of His saints that His way is going to be preserved. And He's using us as those instruments to preserve a way of life, to preserve a truth that is going to cover the earth like the waters cover the seas very soon. In verse 9 he says, Then you will understand righteousness and justice, equity, and every good path. When wisdom enters your heart and knowledge is pleasant to your soul. That's when all these things will be possible. When wisdom enters your heart, discretion will preserve you, understanding will keep you, to deliver you from the way of evil, from the man who speaks perverse things. So that's how important wisdom is. We're delivered from the evil ones. To deliver you from the way of evil, from the man who speaks perverse things, from those who leave the paths of uprightness, to walk in the ways of darkness. So they would have to be on the path of uprightness first to leave it, to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice in doing evil and delight in the perversity of the wicked, whose ways are crooked and who are devious in their paths, to deliver you from the immoral woman. A wise man, flees immorality and flees the immoral woman. And yet what is dominating the news today? This is such a perverse world that we live in. And so this says here, it would deliver you from the immoral woman, from the seductress who flatters with her words. And so we've got a lot of different things playing out in the news today, and primarily we have, in many cases, there are absolutely many examples of men who take advantage of power and position, and they use it for their own perversity. And he says here, who forsakes the companion of her youth and forgets the covenant of her God, for her house leads down to death and her paths to the dead. None who go to her return, nor do they regain the paths of life. So going in and doing immoral things and going to a seductress and being perverse in that way and allowing yourself to go in that direction, it's very hard to come back from. And that's exactly what the proverb is saying here. They do not regain the paths of life. So you may walk in the way of goodness and keep to the paths of righteousness. For the upright will dwell in the land, and the blameless will remain in it. But the wicked will be cut off from the earth, and the unfaithful will be uprooted from it. So we know that those things, as we've talked about earlier throughout the month of November, what happens to those that are unfaithful, those that are perverse, and the Proverbs are just filled with those types of things. There really are just two paths of life. There's the path of the righteousness and the path of evil. So that's all I wanted to cover for this particular Sabbath, this Sabbath Greetings. So I hope you have a fantastic Sabbath wherever you plan to keep it. We look forward to seeing the brethren there in the Dells. The format tomorrow sort of remains to be seen. I do have the intention of going and speaking. We'll see how I feel yet tomorrow, but I do plan to be there. I know that I'm certainly not contagious in any way, but I look forward to seeing brethren there in the Dells and the fellowship, and really looking forward to keeping the Sabbath there. The rest of you around the area, I hope you have a fantastic Sabbath, a wonderful and restful Sabbath, and a profitable Sabbath. I love you all. take care. You're in my prayers. I know there's a lot of trials going on out there, some of them very, very fiery. And so you're in my prayers, and I appreciate all your prayers for me and for my family. I love you all. Take care, and we'll talk again real soon.